Planning Strategy Committee meeting. We are recording. Just welcome. We've got Gavin, Melissa, Matt, myself around the table. David Wallace, Sarah. Online, we've got Quentin Smith. Barry is running late. He got a wee bit held up with snow. And we've also got Mary Davenport and Nikki Gladding online. Welcome, everyone. We have no apologies received. Any declarations of conflict of interest from anyone?
No.
No. Thank you. No public forum. No matters lying on the table. Confirmation of the agenda. Does anybody wish to alter the agenda or comment on the agenda? Move that the agenda be confirmed without alteration. Gavin seconded. All in favour? Carried. Confirmation of the public minutes of the last meeting, which was held on the 7th of May 2024. I've been through it. I can't see any need to make any alterations. Does anyone else have any amendments? Okay. So the move that the public minutes of the 7th of May 2024 Planning Strategy meeting be confirmed with true and correct record. Matt seconded. I'll move Matt seconded. All in favour?
Right.
Carried. First item, strategic growth up. Welcome Emily, Anita, Michelle.
Thank you.
So we've got the report here. Thank you very much. It's a very comprehensive report and update. Just want to make the comment that I know I realise it might be a few things we want to comment on that changed since the report was written, a little updates. Also noting a lot of the stuff in this report is coming in from other departments. So if we have specialised questions on some of this, we must be best to take them away and address them through the infrastructure committee or community services team. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And CNI.
The spatial plan monitoring report was from May, so it is slightly out of date, but we're in the process of completing an updated one, so that will be brought to the next planning and strategy committee meeting.
Okay. Right. Well, over to you. Do you want anything you want to lead them with, or do you want us just to?
No, we'll take the agenda item as read. You know, this is just an update on the implementation of the spatial plan, the implementation of our joint housing action plan, but in particular the an update on the deeds and the following up we're doing with a couple of the deeds. Also just an update on spatial plan Gen 2 and the structure plan of to tuck away the southern corridor, which we are doing jointly with planning policy, Ali Hutton's team. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just go through it slowly and check if there's questions or comment from people. Just in the front end of it there, the on pages 12 and 13, just talking about the status of various things. Well, the hardware infrastructure acceleration fund, that's something that the community board's interested in. Also, we most probably will take up with PNI to see where we're actually at with that, starting to talk delays to the project. So unless you've got anything you wish to add to that? In the draft LTP, that is now, I think, from, is it years 3 to, oh no, it's from years 1. So it is changed. So yeah, there has been a bit of work we'll be doing regarding that, but yeah, I would talk to
it's really the detail on design option and things like that. Right. Obviously the alternative funding, that's an ongoing thing with the central government. We get updates on that package. On the funding side of it, we're paying a fair bit of attention to that and getting updates on that. Arterial stage 1, well, obviously we're getting lots of updates on that and paying close attention to it as a council to see how that project's progressing. Before we move on to the report itself, anybody else in the committee got? Matt, you got a question?
Yeah, I just wondering if there's any update on the active travel route for A7 and A8 and the funding around that. The last time I heard, and I'm probably out of date now, ZTA were favouring more the Lake Hayes A8? And are we now thinking the funding's gone for both? Is that the idea?
They've just got to wait for the NLTP to be released at the end of August. And so once that comes out, they'll be a bit more aware of what funding passes are for that active travel. They are favouring A8 because it's more further along in that design stage, but they are still wanting to do A7 just really with it. Yeah, it depends on the funding package available.
Right.
We've been passing on that A7 route is really important to our community. That came through really loudly in our Southern Corridor public consultation meeting, and that's basically running turned up and was mentioned that active travel route was really important to them.
The A8 or the A7?
The A7.
The A7. Right, Jack's point.
So just to clarify that, A8 is the other one. It's
Oh,
outside
sorry.
of the
Yeah,
river,
no,
it's
so
like-
A8 is on hold
Yeah.
because of the didn't have that connection to the A7. So that's
It's the
on hold.
German-
It's the A2. Sorry,
Yeah,
that
actually,
is
John's Way is the one
the
that
John's
they've
Way.
got higher up their list of priorities, NZTA.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying.
thank you.
Right.
Yep, thank you very much. Can I ask a second question? Thank you. The alternative funding for a regenerative tourism plan is, whereabouts did that funding come through from?
Oh, for the carbon zero roadmap and the optimal visitation project?
Yeah.
Yes, well, we ended up with plan C on that because plan A had been to ask NB for the money and they sat on the request for over a year. We'd hoped that that would have come from the international visitor levy pot.
Yes.
It did not. Our second option for that was as part of the Better Off funding from the Three Waters project.
Yeah.
But then that funding has been refocused back towards water projects as requested by the government.
Yeah.
And so we've actually managed to find the funding in part within our economic development team and in part within our climate diversity planning team and with the contribution from strategic growth, because the package of work, whilst it sits within the DMP, it's going to have a very strong growth thread in the work. So yeah, effectively we're hoping that the tool will help us think about residential growth and visitor growth and capacities within the district together. So it should be really helpful.
All right, thank you.
Good. Just a quick one, the Ladies Mile variation, obviously there's an issue at the moment with the project shot over dispersal field. Is that likely, and it's, there's work going on to resolve that, but is that likely to change the status? At the moment, that Ladies Mile variation is green, isn't it? I think. Is that likely to be affected by?
I think that's the status is more on where the actual plan changes in the
Right.
process. So that's a separate matter.
Yeah.
So currently that and Ellie's team would be better to give an update on that, but essentially that's sitting with the minister for sign off for consideration.
Okay, on page 14.
I've got some questions if.
Oh, sorry, Brendan, go, Brendan. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Can you just comment on, I suppose, the overall position we are with the spatial plan, particularly the 21 version? So, that was obviously an urban growth partnership between the previous central government and the current, and not the current one. Now, is there any indication that the current government buy into this partnership agreement? Firstly, yeah, I suppose I'll leave that start with that.
Yeah, well, what we've heard is really positive indications about spatial planning, and what we've heard is some talk about urban growth partnerships, but we yet to receive confirmation that they want to join them and run them like they have in the past. We have invited the ministers to attend our partnership governance group meeting on the 20th of September, so we're waiting to hear back from ministers about that, but our government partners have indicated that time to the ministers to say you'll be invited to this meeting. So we're yet to hear. So we haven't heard anything against it, but so I think it's a positive. So
I think I'm just.
But we.
I was just going to.
Hang on, Brendan.
Sorry, I just add that with this government, they've been quite strident on things they want to revoke or stop. And the fact that they haven't revoked or stopped this in the same fashion as they have many of their initiatives is somewhat positive. And, because of the conversations that are ongoing around city deals, I think there is acknowledgement that urban growth partnerships provide a programme of work that could get those quickly underway should that be appropriate. So I think that's why things are slightly uncertain with regards to ministerial activity, but at the same time, all of the government resources are still being committed and the participation's there from our various agencies. So we haven't had any pullback from any of them.
Brendan?
Yeah, so I suppose that, I just wanted to, I think we are in limbo with this. And I mean, while the previous spatial plan was primarily done because of the partnership agreement, the 2.0 version is being done because of the both because of that and the FDS requirement under the MPSUD, which hasn't been wound back by the government, but they have set some different expectations around things like the 30-year growth required and things like that. So just wanted to reinforce, I think we are in limbo here, and I think we've just got to keep that in mind. I'm not saying that these things aren't valuable, but we are in limbo and we don't really know what the government think about this at this point in time. Can you just comment briefly around those announcements around the growth expectations and stuff, and just how we measure up to those new expectations?
Yeah, so one of the key ones is to have allowed for 30 years worth of zone growth. So our previous housing capacity assessment showed that we do meet that. So we do have the 30 years zone growth, but we are getting an update. What we're also hearing indications are that future spatial plans or future development strategies will need to allow for 50 years worth of growth. So our existing spatial plan is 30 years plus, but so that 50 years will be a reasonable step up for us to consider. So that's an early indication from government that we will have to go. Another thing that is in the headlines at the moment is urban growth boundaries and the removal of those, and that really big focus on those rural-urban differentials. So we are working with government and discussions with them about those issues that have been raised by the government.
I mean, I suppose we can anticipate where those urban growth boundary issues might come into play, but that doesn't, because of those other reasons you said, the growth and the strategic planning issues don't negate the value of the spatial plan in terms of our future growth areas.
No, I agree. I mean, it's what the spatial plan is, a strategic plan that we use internally too. It's part of a system of works where we're looking at the spatial plan, the LGP, the proposed district plan, all our stormwater catchment management plans, all the stuff that's in the transport realm. They're part of this big system that are feeding in and informing each other. So the spatial plan has been really helpful for us to have that big picture view and to align our thinking. In the past we've been quite developer-led, so this is our opportunity to really give that clear view to our community. Another thing we've been really highlighting to government is we could zone lots of land, but that doesn't necessarily enable growth in our district. One of our critical issues is the provision of infrastructure, not just three waters, but social infrastructure and the affordability of that. So that's what is, constraining our growth, are those things.
Yep, understood. You all right,
What if the ministers, or if government chose not to attend or support our next meeting of the spatial plan, in joint meeting of the spatial plan group in September, I believe, what signal would that send to us in terms of their buy-in to the value of this work?
Yeah, I think we probably have to just reevaluate what's happening, but our indications from staff are that they are supportive of the partnership. They just are yet to make a determination on the role they're going to play and what direction they're going to require from their perspective.
Through you, if I may as well. I think part of the conversation that we're hearing, Councillor Smith, is more around the who as opposed to the if, because historically we've had Stuart Nash at the table, who covered both economic development and tourism. Now the question is, well, is the tourism minister the right person to be in the room? Is there an alternative? So I think that there's a lot around the who, and also with regards to timing around future discussions of city deals, because I think they're anticipating a cabinet paper on city deals was supposed to have gone at the end of July, I think, actually, so any day now. So, but I think that there's quite a lot of water to go under the bridge before we worry as to if they're going to join the table. I think it's a question of where the conversation now goes, but it's a really good point, and we need to think of what are the avenues in front of us.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I would point out that, yeah, I mean, Megan Woods was, and I can't remember, sorry, the other minister that came last time. I mean, housing minister and the tourism minister, I think, were involved.
Yes.
Previously. It is an important relationship, and one that, you know, if this partnership or the spatial plan is to hold the value that it intended, it needs to have the buy-in from central government and or continued buy-in from central government. That's something we need to keep on working on. Are we going to go through the monitoring report separately, or should I pose a couple of questions to that?
Yeah, we're going to go up there in a minute, Quinn, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Let's cover off on this last bit on this meeting in September. What is it? What did you say? 22nd of September?
20th of September.
20th. And that's here in Queensland. And you're hoping to have ministers and all the other parties there.
Yeah, so it's the partnership governance group. So that's the mayor, deputy mayor Quinton, councillor Smith, 2 representatives from OIC, 2 representatives from Kaitahu, and the 2 ministers.
Okay, good. The bit in the section here on the mention about the stakeholder deeds, this is a good time, first time we've really had a good update on that. And I see you've got down for a meeting in September to be reported to council in September. Is that on the 19th of September? Full update on the recommendations.
Yep,
okay. That's right. You talked to me about a bit of the work going on in the background on that. Any questions on the stakeholders deeds? Okay, let's move on to the talk about the spatial plan. The monitoring report. Just moving through that. What page is that? Page 21 at the start of the report. The first part there about the intensification. Well, that's underway. Have we got anything on those pages anybody wants to raise? I hadn't been down to you got it. What so just on, I've got a thing on page 24, the housing side of it. It's got there in the comments on the column key milestones. The first land parcels of QLDC land review are expected to go to council decisions in mid-2024. Can you just update what we're talking about then?
It's about the wider land review, so that might be slightly delayed now. So it's part of the wider review of all of the QLDC land.
Okay.
And the first parcels are being investigated about sort of the legal technical requirements about what we're able to do with them. And so that's the property team that can provide a more full.
That's what they're working on now. That okay, understood. And then obviously we've got an item on the council agenda this week about urban intensification variation. Have you got anything? Anybody else got anything up to these pages? Quentin, do you have something on?
Well, firstly, I've got a broad comment. Is that, and I've said this before, is that I don't think the traffic light RAG status serves us very well. Look, the commentary is useful and whatever, but I think the RAG status is borderline misleading in many cases around whether those things are on track, for instance. And I mean, I can draw an example. It's hard for any of us to really believe the arterial stage 1 is only amber, given the cost and delays and other issues that, you know, it should be flashing red. NZ up, you know, once again, the cost escalation and the challenges associated with that, it'd be hard to imagine that it'll be anything other than red and continue to be red. Queenstown Public Transport Services, you know, saying it's green, it continues, well, you know, it's working and whatever. I mean, we've always got ongoing challenges with that. It's not, and even in terms of funding and future travel demand, I mean, comprehensive parking management plans, I don't think we've seen the drafts of those yet, so it's hard to believe that they're green. The single stage business case for Wanaka is actually, without speaking out of house, definitely isn't green at this moment in time. It's probably flashing bright red. You know, without going into all of them in turn, I just think, you know, that we risk being misleading if we're not, by using those RAG status. I would rather abandon the RAG status altogether than continue with the traffic light system that we're using.
Okay, we'll get comment on that.
Yep. This RAG status was agreed with the partnership group and essentially is an agreed approach to how we would, as a partnership, on how we would be reporting. What was agreed there is, if you look back in previous monitoring reports, some of these RAG statuses would have been red. With the arterials, we've had an agreed approach forward. So previously they were red, it's come back to council, we've agreed the funding, so then it moves into green. So that was the process that we agreed as a partnership to report. The only thing we could do is make clear in here, but the RAG status and the definition of how they're determined is at the start of the monitoring report.
If I may add, we've actually, new report, we've actually aligned it with the ZAC's team with the monitoring report as well. So they've done a lot of work on what that risk looks like. And so our next report is aligning with that. So all of our RAG statuses across all our reports will be aligned. And that's based on the project management office and the process team. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well.
Yeah, well, look, I think at the very least it needs to be on the agenda for the next partnership meeting, because I don't think it works, and I think it's, as I said, I think it's misleading in many cases. The status that comes up on these, they clearly are not the case. And I'm not. This isn't a judgment on you. I accept that the guidelines are, the criteria. But if this is the outcome that's coming out, and the criteria are clearly wrong, and the system doesn't work for us, so we need to fix that.
Okay, thanks. Let's see how it lines up with the monitoring report. Yeah, okay. I agree. I hear what you're saying about. I don't pay a lot of attention. Most of the attention goes to the commentary and the milestones. Yeah, with the content of it. Any other questions?
Just one further comment. But the reason it's so damaging is if somebody reads this report and sees a whole lot of green lights, I think that's misleading, and they would get an incorrect impression that everything is working to time and to budget and to everything, and that's clearly not the case in many of these. Not necessarily at. There's other reasons why many of those things occur, but it doesn't create a correct impression of where we're at.
Yeah, understood. Got your measures. Thanks, Quinn. I understand. I tend to agree with that if that's giving the impression of, but let's see what happens in the next report and the explanation. Michelle.
If I may, through you, I think it's a perennial challenge with a very broad-ranging monitoring report of this nature to put in place criteria that are applicable across the whole range of projects. I think it's, we are very happy to, if you've seen this work more effectively in other ways in other places, always happy to take some feedback. I think the RAG status is a guideline there. This is a May report as well, so things have moved on since then. And it is very much around the agreed milestones and development points that have been put in place in the project. So, I think there is always there's always room for improvement in this space, and hopefully the alignment with the monitoring report tightens this up further. So we've at least got consistency for our governance teams, regardless of which report you're looking at. You're looking to the same standards and criteria. So that's what we're working towards. But I think, Quentin, you probably find that this is a frustration that's felt in many governance forums when you're trying to redact something down to something as straightforward as a red, amber, green. There are always points of difference to be found in perceptions.
Well, absolutely, but I think, and as the point that I made last time, is that the point that we need to get across in these tables is what are the risks and opportunities that face each of these individual projects at the moment, and the risks particularly is identifying what are the potential snagging points, what are the risks associated with funding, and there should be a whole nother column that relates to risks and opportunities and actually explains what the challenges and the risks are upfront and transparently, rather than because it doesn't get into that in any of the commentary for the most part. And I think we need, that's what's missing.
Sorry, Quentin, I didn't mean to talk over you there. I think we'd find that for any of these projects, if you were to request an insight into the actual project plan, that's where you'd find the detailed risk information. This is supposed to be a surface level governance tool, and we have tried to capture risk in that red, amber, green in the criteria up top. But I think what you will see is very different in the new version that comes through, is there's a much higher emphasis on risk. So hopefully that will start to address some of your concerns.
Okay, thank you. Any update on the housing business assessment project? That's pretty critical for the identification.
So it'd probably be that's Ellie's team that's leading it. We're assisting Ellie in that, but I think updated timetable is going to be given. Is that correct?
Yes, through the chair, we are just looking to input information from our infrastructure team. So we're just waiting on that to know how construction will be as part of that model, which is a critical component.
Okay, thank you. Got any questions on the monitoring report at the table? Got any more questions, Quentin?
Not specifically. As I said, I appreciate that they don't have all the detail of all the individual things. I do, as I said, I question the status of many of them. In fact, the question the status of the entire program at this point without government buy-in, and that becomes, as I said, becomes a key. We need a clear direction from government as to where this sits now, and equally we need, to the point that we don't really have clear go-ahead on the 2.0 version until that's clarified either.
Yeah.
If I may,
sure.
we do need to go ahead on the 2.0 version because of the FDS requirement that's on us at the moment. So that's relatively clear, and the level of support around the table from the agencies is clear. I think where we have a lack of clarity is the political element, but equally we have very strong relationship and buy-in from Kotahu and from the ORC, and we're making significant progress in that regard as well.
And we'll see what comes out of the 20th September meeting, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, lots to change.
Yeah.
And just to emphasize that I think this is, and I've been involved with it right from the beginning. I think it is actually a really sound piece of work that we do need to emphasize and keep hanging our hat on, but we just need to make sure that it's got the weight behind it that it needs. So.
Yeah,
good point.
So like I said at the beginning, there are a few things in here that have come up that I've taken away, taken notes of for raising in other forums, Gavin, you might have some things from infrastructure and stuff like that, so we can follow up. So it's really good to have that overview, because where it all comes together in one report. So thank you. Anything else? All right. The resolution is to note the contents of the report and note the updates on timing and progress of projects undertaken by the planning and policy team. Tom, move it. Matt, Gavin seconded. Just a comment as follow on. Obviously you heard what Quentin's raised, and I think we seem to support that. When you're talking about those risk levels and that, it'd be interesting to see the next report. Thank you very much.
Can you just, sorry, before, can you just read the recommendation?
I think that might be one for the next report.
Oh, that's sorry. Ah, yeah.
It's not my room here, but we'll.
We'll go back. Ignore that, Sarah. Start again. Okay. Item 1. Note the contents of the report. Matt and Gavin, have you that? Thanks, Melissa.
I thought you'd edit another one. I just didn't.
Yeah, we're going to throw a few others in there. You don't know that. Yeah. All in favour?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Thank you. Thank you, team. Gee. Follow these guidelines. Item 2. Purposes report to update planning strategy committee on the key projects being progressed by the planning policy team. Welcome, Alison.
Good morning, thank you.
Right, introduce your item and away we go.
Yep, I'm happy to take the agenda item as read and just go through page by page and answer any questions you may have. In terms of the detail, there may be some updates since this was first written a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, can you start by at the beginning there, you did talk about the resource heavy process. Have you got any brief update on how we're managing on this resource heavy process? Are we struggling or are we doing okay?
It's a question. I think the team is doing really well. We balance a rolling review with different parts of the policy cycle happening simultaneously. So at any given time, we're consulting on new provisions, monitoring existing provisions, as well as in the section 32 or planners report 42 stage, preparing for hearings and still resolving a number of appeals in the Environment Court through earlier stages. So got an amazing team and we've got different levels of experience who can assist at different levels of the policy making framework. So we are getting there, but as anybody's aware, district planning in the Queenstown Lakes is pretty full on, but yeah, we're managing essentially.
Yeah, through the chair, if I could just comment further. Thanks, Ali, for those comments, but my observations, the team is under a lot of pressure continuously to try and get the mammoth amount of work that's coming to us done and out the other side. So it's reasonable to say that the team is under a lot of pressure and they're doing a fantastic job, but it's not easy.
How many years have been going now, the review? When did we start way back in?
I sort of was there and then I left and then I came back. I don't know why, no. It's it has been going a while and that is just a function of a stage district plan review. I think anybody that's been involved in this process will potentially agree that it would have been best as all in one go. It hasn't worked for a district of this complexity with the growth issues that we have, but also a district plan of this complexity and the, I guess, the litigious nature of most things that we do down in the Queenstown Lakes District. So, yeah, it is a long process and it will continue in that lengthy process.
Just as the other districts, surely they're not as complex, I guess, most of them as ours for doing reviews. It wouldn't take nearly as much resource.
And yes, some other districts, like the bigger ones that we are, I guess, mostly aligned with, who are the big cities or the growth areas such as, say, Hamilton and Tauranga and such, they do have larger in-house teams than we do for this sort of work. At the higher end, in terms of when we get to the Environment Court stage, I do have to rely a little bit on consultants to assist us because we just don't have that depth of experience in-house.
Okay, yeah, and I think through the chair, if we look at how policy flows through to consenting and appeal rates in other areas, for example, per capita, Auckland has 20 times the level of appeals as or QLDC has 20 times more appeals than Auckland is on a per capita basis. So that just gives you an indication of how litigious it is here, and that flows through obviously from policy spaces.
Okay, into the report next. So we've got the highlighted and bold the changes or comments, is that right?
Yes, that is the way. I'm just trying to find an easy way of, yeah, updating it so that you're aware of sort of changes between meetings. Within the last period, we have had confirmation of both mediation and environment court dates, which is great. We did have some hearings that had been set down, but for a number of reasons, medical reasons and such, we've had to change those dates, and council's been happy to work with the appellants on that. You will see, I think it's probably easier if I just go down page by page, and if there's any questions, I can take them.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Page 1.
I'm on 41 now, 42. We are working, there's some appeals there on the rural visitor zone, and we'll be looking to bring some agenda items for potentially amended delegations through to the next meeting. So they're not part of this one. We're working on those reports at possible point in time. We've got mediation set down for Arthur's Point appeal, and that is next month. And we had we've already got the parameters for that mediation that was set last year. The reason being that has taken so long to come to this point, there is a number of parties to the appeal in section 274 parties, and to get everybody in the room for mediation, because you do need everybody in the room, it's been pretty tricky to align calendars. Inclusionary housing variation, that recommending report will be presented to the full council meeting on Thursday. And I'm aware that that's out in the public on the agenda now. Landscape priority areas, appeal period closes next week for that. So as yet, we've not received any, but it's usually that we receive them essentially on the last day.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's just the same as submission processes. The last week or the last couple of days are usually the busy time for receiving all of those. The next one, urban intensification. We have a commissioner panel that's been set for that, which is great. The next steps for that process will be that panel getting together, confirming evidence deadlines for both the appellants and for council, and the dates of those hearings. So the RMA provides dates that we need to adhere to, but they are actually quite quick and quite close to the hearing time. So we will be trying to adopt a bit more of a best practice for that, and within the next month, getting something out to submitters so they're aware of where we are and what hearing times that we're looking towards. Given the amount of submissions, we're looking at having hearings in Queenstown, Wanaka and Arrowtown. So we'll move the hearings location to those particular areas to make it easy for submitters to come and speak to their submissions if they so would like to.
What's that?
Do you know how many people do want to come and speak, like on the sort of such a large number? We don't know.
At this stage, we don't know. We do need to set those dates first,
Okay.
and then our committee secretary does an amazing job of liaising with all of those who said they wanted to speak, which I think was about 60% of the submitters. They usually all say that they'd like to speak when they put the submission in, but you don't necessarily get the same amount actually appearing. And then we will start that process, or the committee secretary does a wonderful job of playing Tetris to make that hearing schedule work as much as possible, so it's timely and efficient.
Thank you.
And then once we've got those, they are also loaded and updated on the website as well, so people can keep an eye out on particular submitters if they'd like to attend to listen to those as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
It'll be recorded and put online as well.
Yes, it'll be recorded in terms of audio, but not videoed or live streamed for this one, because it's just extremely expensive, and especially moving around all of that technical capability, because we don't have it within house at QLDC, and we don't have a room set up that we can have hearings, so we do have to hire that. So the most cost effective and easiest is audio recordings, which are made available each night after the hearing day.
Okay.
Alison, just a question. Is on the landscape schedules up at Clutha, is the date the 12th of July at the bottom of that? Is that correct, or should that read 12th of August?
This part of the agenda has been superseded in terms of the error that was made with the notification of the Clutha 293 area. So I would disregard these dates, and we're just confirming the new ones. We're just also ensuring that the clause 34 process, which is an interesting process within the RMA, is conformed to properly, so that we receive comments on that 34 process, make recommendations on that, and then notify the Upper Clutha landscapes variation.
Okay.
So as soon as possible, all of that information will be on our website for potential submitters or interested parties, and we're liaising with some of those now, as well as a more fulsome update as to those dates in the next agenda and the next committee agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Moving on now.
Yeah, 46, special zones review. Yeah, we're working on those special zones. We're starting to have conversations with landowners in some of those zones where we're still dealing with one or two landowners, as opposed to they've been largely developed or broken up. The team's working on consultation strategies to get the best out of that process, and yeah, we will essentially keep on working on that and liaising with interested parties where we can.
Good.
Spatial planning priority areas, that was sort of touched on in Anita's report that you just had before. In terms of what we're doing, quite a bit of work being undertaken at the moment for the Southern Corridor structure plan, because that will then lead into variational plan change to district plan. Page 48, I'm up to the making the plan operative. That is an ongoing project, and I've got there that it will depend on when council makes Te Pūtahi Ladies Mile formally operative, as part of the ministers, when we first got that Gazette notice in terms of undertaking that streamlined planning process. It outlined the dates that we had to give effect to, which covered right through to making that operative. So if possible, I'll try and align other parts of the district plan that we're ready to make operative at that time, so we can look at whole chunks, which would be great.
So is there anything holding up that becoming formally operative?
In terms of the Ladies Mile,
You've still got a minister's decision? Or?
no, we have not received that as yet. Indications from the ministry are that that process could take anything from 3 to 6 months.
From now or
From when we first met our timeframes, which I think was the end of April.
Yeah, through the chair, if I could just say that what the information we have from the ministry, the official information to council at the moment is that the minister will see that through the month of July.
Okay.
We have reason to believe that might be stretched. So that's why.
Yeah.
And because, you know, the other parties are also talking to the ministry, trying to find out money. So we can't rely on the information provided to them, but the information appears to say that it might be a bit long.
Okay. Thanks. Woods Road has.
There is work being undertaken with regards to Gorge Road hazards, work that the reserves team is also doing within the council part of that area, we're looking to update the council website as soon as we can in terms of giving a little bit more of a update on the various work streams under Gorge Road hazards. It's pretty complicated. Glenorchy natural hazards, our team's keeping a watching brief on that. And as I indicated before, in terms of the housing and business capacity analysis, a lot of work's been undertaken to create that model. An important part of that model is locking in our infrastructure provision, what we can basically make infrastructure ready. So you look at the zoning, which we know from our last one, we were sort of in excess of 30 years zone capacity, but then infrastructure ready capacity is another thing that we need to report on. So we're just awaiting that information from P&I and hope to get that as soon as possible to keep on going, because we're aware that a number of projects including our own internal teams processes are dependent on that information and having accurate housing and business analysis done.
So there's the sense of urgency from all the departments working on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last bit in bold there is the proposed Otago Regional Policy Statement that council was an appellant and have joined a number of appeals in that process. There will be an agenda item to the next planning and strategy meeting regarding those appeal processes and delegations for mediation.
Okay, any questions before we go into the outstanding court appeals? Okay, page 50.
So I've just noticed there's a typo in that page. Ignore that. We've got some hearings set down for Kajona Cattle Company, which is the proposed industrial zoning down in Gippsland in October. Yeah, we'll potentially be looking to discuss that appeal at a later date with the committee as well. Yeah, not too much has changed since last time, except of the amendment of different Environment Court hearing schedule dates that we have. And as I indicated before, there'll be a couple of agenda items, public excluded, to the next meeting, which will seek resolutions for potential mediation of another 2 appeals, which are all visitor zone. Yeah, that's all I have in terms of particular updates that I can speak about in public included. So yeah, happy to answer any other questions the committee members may have.
Any questions on the table? You got any questions, Brendan?
No, all good on that, thanks.
Just a question on page 58. I know it's a bit weird, really. You got the name of the person for the Sticky Forest, Michael Burris, that he's passed on. You don't get an updated name for that now.
There potentially is, and I might not have used the correct spreadsheet.
It's the Bunker and Rouse appeal now.
It is Bunker and Rouse, yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, Councillor Smith is correct that for the next time I'll replace the name with Bunker and Rouse, which I think is the current.
Okay, that's
current
right.
name.
Sorry, that's
Thank you. Yeah.
Not a major on this.
Yep.
So still waiting for the decision on that one.
That's correct, the final decision, yeah.
Are there any feedback or an indication?
I have no indication in terms of time of that, but no, I'm sorry. We're not usually privy to that, so.
No.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure, I'm sorry.
Okay, no more questions from Elliot Lawson. Get the right agenda. Item 2, note the contents of the report and the resolution. Note the updates on the timing and progress of projects undertaken by the planning policy team. So I'll move that. Melissa moved, seconded by Gavin. Any other questions? All in favour? Aye. Gary, thank you very much, Alison.
Thank you.
I'd like to move that for the remainder of the agenda, the public be excluded from the meeting. Someone second that? Matt, all in favour? Aye. Okay, we'll go to public excluded.